Really?
Yeah, that they have automatic. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Dr. Nahan. I'm a clinical psychotherapist, speech therapist, and as you know already about me that I'm doing a lot of live streams nowadays. And the reason for doing that is to create awareness. And today I have an international guest. She's Monica Tress and she have a son with autism. And the name of her son is Alexander. And I just have a little glimpse of Alexander, and he just said hi to me. And thank you so much for coming, even if it's for a little time. So today we will be talking different aspects of autism, because uh, there are a lot of things when we are talking about autism. Then we say that a child should have doing a lot of things at certain age, but there are a lot of aspects involved. For example, a child cannot get a proper diagnosis at exact age, or you could say the child have to wait to get that diagnosis. And we were discussing the important aspect that that age is very important. Maybe a child have to wait in the list for 2 or 3 years, and at that period the child failed to you know um, adopt that skill, because we were not having that idea that a child has some kind of problem. So there are a lot of things involved in the diagnosis. And there are a lot of things start from political aspects as well. And as she's the activist and she's the voice, and when I asked her, introduce yourself, she said that I am the voice of my son. I am his voice, and he has limited vocabulary. Thank you so much, Veronica, for joining us and for agreeing. Okay, so let's start. When did you realize that your child is different from other children? So let's just start our discussion. Then we will, slowly build about talk about other
Well,
problem and other aspects as well.
well, my son Alexander, he actually hit all of his developmental benchmarks from the time he was a newborn. Um, first year he was already saying words. He had all 20 of his primary teeth. Um, but right around I want to say 16 to 18 months of age, I started to notice him being real clingy to me. Um, he would react very almost temper tantrum, and now I know those were meltdowns where couldn't control what was going on around him, and understanding his place in space. And a lot of this took place shortly after he had a mild, I mean not mild, but an oral surgery on his teeth, because he had some rotting teeth, and he had to have surgery prior to the norm of age 2 years old. So after he had to go through anesthesia and all of that, he come out of that pretty good, but then I started seeing signs of regression, and the clinginess, and the excruciating scream. And so the place locally here in Arkansas, it's our Dennis Developmental Center. They wouldn't even look at him before the age of 2. So even though I may have seen signs at 16 and 18 months, primarily you don't get a diagnosis of something neurological till 2 or 3 years old. And so I did get the initial diagnosis of autism, and I got a second opinion by the time he was 3. Um, and there was pretty much no hope at that time. They didn't have any concrete information or support for you to find resources. It was just, you're not going to be able to take care of him. He's autistic. As he gets older, you will not be able to control his behaviors or be able to, educate him in any way. So they pretty much gave me the advice of picking an institution or a place to place him, because I would not be able to handle being his parent. And I didn't do
Okay,
that.
let me. So now your son is 20 years old. Let me give you a little surprise that Marcus Broad was on my, he talked to me last week, and he's over here as well. And hello, Marcus. And he's saying that you are a legend model for mental, yeah, and a pillar of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, on the world. So thank you so much, such a player for us that you joined us today. And do you want to join us? Maybe I can send you a link, Marcus. That would
Yeah,
be
send
interesting
him.
as well.
Yeah, send him
Okay. If he
something.
had, okay, if he agreed, then I will send him the link. What do you say,
Okay.
Marcus? If you want to agree, then you will add you up over here as well in our discussion, and it will be our
That'd be great.
player that join us. He said that at that a lot of people understand that aspect that what is going through the child, and it's a very challenging point for the mother, because mother think that the child is having some kind of illness, some ailment. That's why the child is not speaking. There is a problem that the child is not feeling okay, so that's why he's not speaking.
Or if
I
he
have to
doesn't
jump on another
respond,
interview later.
started not responding to his name. So that's what kind of triggered me, was when I would call his name and he would not look my way, he would not respond to me.
Okay, so I'm just saying because over here I have heard mothers are saying that till even the child is 4 years old, and mother said, "Oh, our child was, socially they used to say that's a boy. The boys are late talker because a lot of people with autism, they are male child. Girls have autism too, but it's underdiagnosed because of so many reasons. There are so many things involved with that diagnosis, why it's late diagnosis. But even then, at age of 4, they are not even alarmed. They say that the carnival where game, and these are important issues of a child life. If a child is 3 years old and is not speaking, then you should go to see and you should start some working at home, because it's not just about that diagnosis. You're waiting for the diagnosis. It would take time, but you can do something at home. You can do something to develop his non-verbal communication, to develop his pointing and skills like that, to help the child to communicate more, to point more if he's not able to talk. So these are
Right.
some important aspects, and we need to talk about more about these things, despite of the fact that we have a lot of resources. Even then we need to talk about more about these things, because it is underdiagnosis, overdiagnosis. Okay, so when you said you came to know that your child has this kind of problem, so when did you start taking his therapy? And thank you so much, Marcus, for coming. We would definitely take you on board some other time, because he's having some kind of interview as well. He said that I have had to jump to that interview.
Okay.
Okay, Veronica, tell me.
Well, as far as therapy, of course, they offer the speech, occupational, and physical therapy. But what I learned
Yeah.
on my own, as I started to learn how to write grants, and I got certified to write grants a long time ago. My son was like 3, 4 years old. And I wrote grants to travel across the country to learn alternatives to medicine with Alexander. So I learned about
Okay.
the fact that he had sensory processing dysfunction, and I learned how to help him overcome and adapt to that with what is called sensory integration therapy, which was founded by
Okay.
a lady named Jean Ayers. So we went to the Jean Ayers Clinic and learned those techniques. And I also went to a program with my son called the Jude Vine Center for Autism. That's in St. Louis. We did a 3-week program there. And that was where we learned how to modify his behavior without using meds. So my son has never been on psychotropic meds. I always did alternatives to medication. And we also participated in a program where we learned craniosacral therapy, which
Okay.
is a big piece for Alexander, and learning how his cerebral spinal fluid was not, you know, flowing as fluidly as it should be to help his brain transmitters to fire off what he needed in order to develop according to what he needed or where his gap in development was. So even now to this day, my son continues to do chiropractic alignments for his neck and back, not just to manage the pain, but to also help with the flowing of the cerebral spinal fluid.
Okay. So yeah, so you start doing sensory education therapy, and you said that you did not give medication to your child. This is what I'm getting, because people sometimes said that if you give medication to your child, they will start speaking. I'm just clarifying this thing, and I want you to
I've heard
clarify
that.
this aspect, because there are
Well, in my
there's a
opinion,
little bit distortion.
excuse me. Okay. In my opinion, medication was never an option for me. I was not going to put my son on meds, even though they wanted to put him on Ritalin.
Okay.
They wanted to do what was the other one? Prozac.
Little, yeah.
They wanted to do Buspar to help him go to sleep. And I just didn't feel comfortable with that, with him being pervasive level of care, which meant and continues to be pervasive level. He will always have to have someone to take care of him. So I did not want to take a chance on my son or myself overdosing my son on medication, trying to figure out what was going to work, what dose. It wasn't worth his life to put him on medication.
Okay, let me share some experience with you. A child was coming to me in the therapy, and we did not get idea that the child is on medication because parent did not communicate to us that the child is taking medication. They would just say that the child is on some multivitamin. The child is taking multivitamin because he is weak, his bones are weak. So, uh, one day the child came to us, and the child was literally, what you could say, he was so sleepy that I got afraid. I don't know what happened to that child, and I was so afraid that at that time. And he was literally just like, it was more like you just give anesthesia to that child. That was that kind of, and I was so afraid, and I immediately called the parents that I don't know, God forbid something happened to your child, it will come on me. Please come and take your child. So
Right.
the parents to us, and they were so relaxed. They said, "No, nothing happened to that child because the child is on medication. We just changed his medication." So I said that why you did not communicate this before? Because whenever a child is on medication, then the reception level is minimized. You're teaching something the child, and the child is not getting anything from you. So our,
Right.
you could say, it's useless to put a lot of effort on that child, because if a
Right.
child need to be very alert, the child need to be, communicate to us, and the child mind should be alert as well, so that he can get what we are teaching to the child. Because maybe today we need to repeat 10 to 20 times one thing, but if a child is on medication, maybe we have to repeat that 20, 30, 40 times more than thing. And if you want to give medication to your child, then it's your personal choice. We
Yeah.
cannot say something to a parent, because these are personal choices made by the parents.
Right.
But at least you could minimize the dose, or you could a little bit maybe change the time, or if you could not change the time, but you can minimize the dose as well, because maybe the child he don't need that much medication, he's not that hyper. Because people think that if the child would take medication, the child will start speaking. It never happened. It's not like
Mhm.
that. The medication is to reduce the hyperactivity. Is your child
Mhm.
hyperactive? Okay, that's a separate thing. That if your child is hyperactive, so we
Well,
cannot,
there's no.
jump into that thing that child need or not does not need. It's a personal choice. But what would we do is give him alternative things in form of, we will, suggest a parent to involve the child in some physical activity, because the more a child is involved in a physical activity, the more the child will able to pay attention to you. The child will able to understand what you're talking to that child, and what you're talking that child as well. So when a child is on
Absolutely.
medication, because when we both are talking, for both of us, our body language is so important. And to learn that body language, the children with autism, they fail to understand that body language, because they don't pay, they don't have eye contact, they're not even responding to
Right.
their name, and they're in their own world. So if
Hmm.
a child already is lost in his own world, you're giving
Yes.
something that, taking child away from you. So in
Yes.
other words, you're giving a tool to child to stay away from you. So
Yes.
it's always a personal choice, but we can just give suggestion to the parents. So when you start, okay, coming back to the Alexander, and Alexander is now 28 years old.
28.
Okay.
Alexander is 28 years
Okay.
old. Uh, he lives at home with me. I am his primary support person. I advocate for his rights to appropriate services within the state and what the state offers and what he's eligible for. However, due to his limited cognitive ability, he doesn't understand what services are available and what's out there for him. So I'm his voice to make sure he gets what he's entitled to.
Okay. So tell me, you said that your child regret. So when he starts speaking again, when did he start uttering his first word again? When you're starting therapy and have this idea, or
We,
you learn a lot of different therapy as well.
yeah, when he started to lose his speech and then regain it, I think he regained speech around. He started using one and two word utterances by the time he was 5. Um, but that was
Okay.
because I did a lot of visual and verbal and physical prompting in trying to encourage his language. So I would not, I would not learn sign language because I felt like if my son was able to have a meltdown and scream to the top of his lungs, that he still had voice, right? He still had motion of those vocal cords. So I did different strategies to help strengthen the vocal cords so that we can
Yeah.
encourage the verbal speech.
Okay. I also,
Right.
encourage, or you could say, I also support that idea because there's a lot of states or a lot of areas, a lot of places where people don't understand the sign language. Maybe a mother
Yeah.
understands the sign language, but wherever the child is going, maybe that area is not comfortable with sign language. They don't understand the sign language. And the thing is that the brain has the capacity, because as far as we're talking about the human brain, it has the capacity to overcome other things as well. So there are a lot of areas that involve in speech. I mean, maybe not exactly directly involved in speech, but maybe they can aid the speech process as well, comprehension process as well, understanding process as well. Maybe the child is not able to, speak in the whole word, but if a child say one word, okay, let me give you an example. Day before, I'm giving an online session as well. So mother asked me question, teacher, tell me one thing. I said what? She said that the child get her and he said monkey. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
let me give you the background. Maybe do you might also know about the five little monkeys jumping on the bed. So
Okay.
one get fall and bump his head. So bump.
Oh,
Oh, so he is saying
okay.
monkey. So he
Monkey.
said to his mother
The
that, yeah,
monkey.
yeah. He said to his mother that I'm hurt. I get bump on the. So that is a background. But
Right.
since if the mother did not ask him the question, how would she understand what his child is trying to communicate? So I tell that the child is trying you to communicate that I get hurt. Please do something, or you put your head over here, or maybe massage up my head. So he is communicating that I get hurt, but he was using the word monkey because this is
Wow.
a whole point, a whole story scenario, and the child was intelligent enough to give her a word. Maybe he don't understand
But
what should I say to my mom. So
but
it
you
worked
still gave yeah.
just like that. But what if a child is in a place where other people don't understand what happened to him? The child is having temper tantrum, then the child use the word monkey. So maybe other person get this idea that the child saw some monkey, or the child saw something like that, which make him scared. So the thing is that
Yeah.
the more we encourage a child to do the pointing, using the gesture, or use the verbal word, the more the child would able to do this, because these things are working in supportive environment. You need to be very supportive as a parent, as a therapist, to give a space to a child. Because sometimes when you restrict a child to something, because that child is not going to learn a lot of things, and which it is important for the child to learn a lot of things and getting knowledge from other things as well. Okay, so you said that you are doing a lot of visual aids and a lot of and that help your child to go to two-letter sentence, and that is a big achievement for the child, because you said that the
Well,
child
I
don't
placed
have that much cognitive ability.
when Alexander was
Okay, so you
younger,
place this.
uh,
Okay.
I placed labels on everything. Like if it was his computer, I put the word computer on his computer. If it was the refrigerator, I put the word refrigerator on it. So I had physical words and symbols of
Yes.
everything throughout the house. So he did not learn typical academic literature, right? He learned what words he needed to be able to communicate outward and give you expressive communication as well as receptive.
So
So
you're
it
basically
was
talking
work.
about you giving the action words. Nowadays
Yeah.
we're calling him. I call it an action words because some action is going on there. Maybe you don't understand how to describe it. Maybe you give a word that running. So it means that the child is running. So
Yeah.
that is a very important thing that you use as visual aid. And there's something important as well. A lot of mothers are coming to me and they say that we have taken the real picture of things involved over there. Maybe the child is with some doing something real thing. So instead of giving him the child a cartoonish figure of a fruit, you could have a
After
picture.
the time.
You could
Yeah.
have a picture of a
With my
real fruit.
with Alexander, he had to have he could not do pretend play. We had to do real life photographs. Like if the car they had to have a picture of the car create a story about the car that we drive and where we drive the car to. I had to have an actual picture of the school bus when I had to teach him that he was going to ride the school bus to school and back home. But I had to have real time lessons with him. He could not get, anime or things like that. I could not do cartoons. You couldn't do make believe food. I had to make real food and give him the name of what the food is, right? Because he was one of those early on. He always mouthed things. He always put things in his mouth. So I couldn't do any pretend anything. Everything had to be real, so I could show him what you can and cannot do, what's real and what's not.
True. Okay, so it's very important to, if you're giving some kind of visual, it's good that nowadays a lot of cards and aids are available which give you real thing gather. It depends on the child. Every child is different on spectrum as far as it is concerned. Okay, so you said that your child, and it's very important to understand, and maybe other parents listen to us as well, that average the academics for these children is not ABC. It's not for them there to learn 1 2 3. It's important to them to learn the important and necessary communication skills, which are important, which are necessary life skills, which are very important to teach these children. Because maybe parents get a little bit depressed on the point that our child is not learning, because what parents used to say, our child understand the name of all, they know the shapes, they can talk the shapes. Or you could say they know the fruit names, they know the shapes, they know the body parts. But what else should I do? The child is not telling me the child is hurt. Like I give you the example, the child was using the word but. The child was intelligent enough to do that, but every child is not intelligent. So instead of going toward academics, instead of going toward these things, okay, as a therapist, it's important for me to teach the child the phonics. It's important because my objectives are different. If a child is not non-verbal, then I will teach the child sounds, because sounds is basics of communication. Then we will use to sound joining, and that is different role. As a therapist, my goal would be different. But if you're parents, then you need to understand the point that teach the real things, real life things. That, for example, you should your child teach the child what is in the kitchen, what the child is eating.
And so I had to say
that is important. If a child could learn ABC,
yeah. And one other thing I want to bring attention to is when Alexander was in the public school system, and they were so adamant about not teaching him the way he learned. So I had to advocate to teach him the way he learned. And once I learned my son was not interested in history, he was not interested in literature, or some of the bigger academia that you do when you're trying to get your high school diploma. So I had to advocate for the school district to center my son's academic credits to graduate around what he's going to use in his community. So instead of algebra, we taught Alexander. I had to implement teaching Alexander money, the denomination coins, and the money, how to make purchases at different stores, whether it's the grocery store or the service station, how to wait for his change so no one could, steal or beat him out of his money. So I had to really encourage the school system to not teach him the typical way. Otherwise, they were going to hinder his learning. Because if you hinder his learning, then you're going to make him self-isolate, and he's not going to want to learn anything.
Yeah, because the child get depressed, and the idea is over here is that if the child is not speaking, it does not mean the child don't understand. The child understand all communication. The child understand the emotion as well. The child can read the emotions as well. If somebody give him judgmental look and a teacher give the judgmental look, oh, I asked Alexander a question, why Alexander is not responding? He's he don't know anything, or he cannot learn that thing. So all these judgmental look can hinder his learning, and the child could go back to his own world again. And we put a lot of efforts on the child. We put a lot of effort on the child so that he come out of this zone. And we need to give a lot of supportive environment. You were very much right that, or in our terminology, basically we call it as life skills, on which I am working nowadays, because I have a center, and over there, we're not just focusing, ABC and stuff. We are focusing on self-esteem as well. So I have to sit with the child. I have to, and I'm teaching the child how to eat, how to drink water, how to use the spoon, which is important. So how to
Very
wear a
important.
shoes, and how to, how to washroom, how to go to the washroom, and what to do when you go to the washroom. You need to have to wash the hand when you're sitting on the table. These are some important life skill which is very important. It's not just,
Yes.
the child is coming
Life
to you and
skills is the most important. Life skills is the most important because you want basic life skills. Like my son knows how to put the dishes in the dishwasher, and put a detergent pod and turn it on, push the button to turn it on. Now he may not have to do it every day because he doesn't have a rigid routine. He learned also, another thing I taught him early on was that there really is no such thing as having a strict, rigid ABCD routine, because anything can happen in a day that throws your schedule off, right?
yeah,
So rather than trying to implement a strict, rigid ABCD routine for Alexander, I had to show him early on everything doesn't go your way every minute of every day. And so you can't have a meltdown just because we didn't stick to the routine. So in teaching him that change happens, I also had to teach him how to adapt and how to self-regulate his mind so that he doesn't feel the need to act out in a meltdown because we didn't have a strict, rigid routine. But that's not life. Life is not a routine.
yeah.
Changes
And the
every
important,
day.
and the important thing over here is that sometimes you take your child to the store, and over there the child has that kind of meltdown attendance, and the parents are, so much in the they feel so much, ashamed maybe at that time, that, and because not because that the child is acting that way, because they're spending life with that child, the parents are depressed because people are giving so much judgmental look to that parents, what kind of, parenting they are doing. That is the point. And we need to, it's not just what I believe nowadays. I believe on the aspect that it's not just about awareness. We don't need to just create awareness, we need to create the acceptance as well, acceptance in the society.
Inclusion, acceptance and inclusion. We must build
And
relationships
yeah,
within the community, right? So
yeah, yeah,
Alexander has a relationship with his barber, and the people that come to the barber shop, they know him, they know he's autistic. We create relationships with all of the places he likes to go. There's someone there that knows him, his disability, and how he acts and reacts to different situations. But that's all about building community relationships and seeking acceptance by inclusion, right? So you
yeah, true.
can't
And
isolate your baby, isolate your child just because someone in the community doesn't want to accept him, right? There's not a special Walmart for autistics, right? There's not a special grocery store I can take my son to. So I have to create a community relationship so that he is accepted while I'm including him in those environmental settings.
you're very much right, and I really like the thing that you said, that there are not special thing for, and it's not about, you might agree to that idea. That's not about, especially about the child is isolated. The parents are isolated too. It's not just about
Mm-hmm.
the child. Just because the
Yeah.
child, the parents are not able to go anymore. One day, a parent asked me, she was so depressed. She said that I cannot take my child to some house because I was in the party and the child was having some kind of meltdown, and they asked us to leave. And and that is not a good
Wow.
thing to ask. And you know what I said to them? You should not go to a place where your child is not welcome.
That's right.
Why you're going to
That's
that
right.
place? If your child is not welcome, why you're going to that place? You should abandon these people and you should have your own step.
Mhm.
It's not about that.
Exactly.
You should not meet these people if your child is not welcome there. Then why you're welcoming these people at your home? That
I
is a
don't deal with anyone. I don't deal with anyone that does not accept me and my son. So,
yeah,
uh, one thing I got into doing is I always give I call it a disclaimer, but I always, when we go to new settings like new restaurants and things like that, I always give my disclaimer about, this is my son, his name is Alexander. he stems or he has echolalia. However, that's his way of adapting to a new setting. And then we walk through the menu and I introduce him to the waiter or or the manager as well. And, if there's a problem, if I catch someone staring funny or judging, I usually use that as a teaching moment, and I'll walk right over to the person and give them a lesson about autism.
Yeah, and second, you don't need to pay in the restaurant if your child is not welcome. Why you're paying to that restaurant? Why you're putting your money to these people who don't welcome your child in the restaurant and who are giving judgmental look? So
yeah, don't even.
The people.
If you're a friend of mine and you can accept my son, then I'm not the friend for you. So yeah, I don't do that. I'll never go anywhere my son is not welcome or wanted, ever.
So we need to, encourage parents, because the problem over here is that we don't have, that much examples in our society. Maybe parents are doing these things, and it's not easy to parent a child who have different needs. And single mother, both parents and mother father are doing a lot of efforts. And parents want to put a lot of efforts on their children as well. But when they see that other society is not welcoming, they are going in isolation and they are so depressed. And you know what they're getting? Let me share some experience of the parents. When parents come to me, first, you know what I used to do? But they are thinking, because they are getting this judgment from the society that you give your child screen time. That is latest, addition in that. You give your child screen time. That's why your child is having autism. You both are so much busy in your own life. You both are so much busy in doing your jobs, and you give your mobile to the child, so the child is having autism. So
I've heard that before.
Time for your child. That is the judgmental call, because parents are getting judgment, because and they're so depressed, and we are not doing anything for our child. And at that point, I always said to them, it is a thing that is going to happen whether you give yourself child mobile or not mobile. And there are a lot of things a child is going to learn from the mobile phone. Okay, so that is a separate thing, that you are always searching for causes, what is causing autism, and what we can what is the cause of autism, or where we were wrong, because it's a judgmental call on the parenting aspects as well. People will ask that you're not parenting your child, you're not communicating with your child. That's why the child have autism. And we have seen a lot of children who were communicating, but they stop communicating. So that thing is cross over here. And as a parent, they should not feel that it's our fault, because they are engaged. Parents are in a lot of they're in they have anxiety, they have major depression disorders as well, just because of the aspect that they are getting this judgmental call from the society, that it's because of them they don't have time, because maybe a father and mother both earning, and both have to earn to give facilities to their children.
And that's just not the case. Autism is like any other type of I want to say reaction that we may have to an environmental issue. Like it could be anything. Like when we have allergic reactions to immunizations. I remember a few years way back when my son was first diagnosed, there was this huge rally about immunizations and vaccines were the cause of autism at one point. And we have to be mindful of some of the silliness that we put out there in the public, because I've had immunizations as well as a child. And, my autism or whatever the autism strain is, I don't have an autism diagnosis. My brother doesn't have it. Now, that's not to say we don't have other mental health issues. However, anything can be triggered into some type of disease or what have you. That's the same thing when we talk about stress. Stress can cause different illnesses within the body. If you're overly stressed, over depressed, and you don't try to seek the positivity or the positive energy that you need to come up out of that solemn of negativity, then you may develop some type of illness. So we can't, I think it's unfair to try, when people try to pinpoint what the cause of autism is, because no one can really say that. It's a developmental delay. It doesn't mean they don't have a brain. The brain is just operating on a different system, right? At a different level, at different times. And it blossoms. Different parts of the brain blossoms at different times. just like a flower. And you just have to have the patience and the tolerance to help that child find their way, no matter how long it takes.
Yeah, true, and you're very much right about the aspect that and we are putting a lot of efforts in understanding what are the causes. Okay, it's important to understand that what are the causes, because you cannot prevent few things. For example, you cannot prevent depression. You already have these traits in the personality, because when we do personality tests, everybody has some kind of issues. So
Yeah.
don't think that somebody has some kind of ailment, some kind of mental health problem or autism. So you cannot get few things. Maybe you cannot get autism because it's developmental, and at the age of 3 a child get that autism and the child get into depression. But you're not exceptional from other kind of mental health disorder. So you can have these
Right.
disorders at any time of your life. So you're not exception. Somebody is not cursed. Don't call
Right.
these people cursed. Don't say that these people
Exactly.
are maybe God is tempers, because these are in this age, in this era, in
And no
2022, people are still coming with
no
this.
two people.
Because one day there was a person,
Oh, and no two
and
people's
he was
disorders
a
or
political person, and
disabilities.
he said same. Because if suppose if I'm working with 7 people, they have autism, they're not same. They're coming from a
Yeah.
different
No.
background. So because people used to ask that how much time it will take to learn a specific thing about this thing, and sometimes there's a father, they will always say, okay, my son is 70% this, the child can do this, the child can this, when the child is going to cure from this thing. So over here the thing is that with other physical ailments, you learn how to cope up with this thing, and how to adapt your life, so that you
Right.
have a different lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, so that the diabetic condition is not going away, the cardiac condition is not going away. You need to manage these conditions. So the same is true for
Definitely.
mental health. We need to manage these things, and it's very important to understand that aspect, that the more early you learn about these things, the more early you accept these things, it is going to make easier your life. And it's not about fighting. And sometimes parent, there was a mother came to me and she was saying that my child, her child was having some kind of hearing issue, and she went for cochlear implant as well. So she said that my child is not autistic, so he's going to be okay very soon. So I tell her, do you know what is autism? Do you have some idea what is autism? She said that autism have this kind of thing. They cannot cure this thing, and they're not going to talk and stuff like that. So I tell her example of a child who is representing Special Olympics in our area, in our country. So I giving the example of that child, and I think that child is going to the university as well. So I said, do you know this child have autism? There are a lot of scientists who have autism. So it's not about that. Every child autism is different, and
Mhm.
and this is not the guarantee that your child is more or a child with autism is less. It's never like that.
Mhm.
So that was a judgmental statement as well. But the thing was that uh, uh, your child have this thing, my child have this thing, my child is better than your child is better than my child. These kind of things are creating
Mhm.
barriers among the community, among the community as well, and you're separating ourselves. We're just stigmatizing ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And another stigma that we have is when we try to when this spectrum was created. I try to tell people autism is an entity in its own. Asperger's is not autism. Savant
Yeah,
is not autism, right? Autism is a very complex and challenging disability. You know,
yeah,
some of those with autism, they may speak, sooner or quicker or more fluently than another, but autism is not the same as Asperger's and Savant. And I've had to express that along the way in my advocating efforts because we try to put all of that in this big bubble and call it autism spectrum disorder. But what people don't know, especially here in the United States, that spectrum was created so that insurance companies could get paid for treating those within a spectrum,
yeah,
because they didn't know how to handle autism or how to diagnose it, how to treat it. And so we create this spectrum so that the insurance companies will reimburse us our pay.
yeah. And
So we
second
have
thing is
to.
that now people are even putting ADHD in autism spectrum as well. It's a different domain. ADHD is totally different from autism. Maybe you agree with that aspect as well. ADHD is a different thing. And it's
Yes,
also
that's a totally different thing.
and that is even extreme opposite to the autism as well. But even then, I don't know why there's this classification put that there are a lot of politics involved in that, a lot of fundings involved in that. So I don't know what they are doing with it, but over here the question is how we're going to work with the child. And uh, uh, over here the thing is important how you're going to work with the child on different level, and how mothers are going to come out and speak about that problems. Because okay, for example, your child have autism, what you're going to do, you put a lot of efforts, you put a lot of money on that aspect, that let's diagnose our child, let's diagnose our child, let's diagnose our child. Okay, you diagnose it, what you're going to do after that? What your
Right.
therapist will tell you, what have you have to do. So they don't have answer for that, because they put a lot of effort on diagnosis their child. And sometimes they have some kind of and there is something else as well. There's a disguise, there's sometimes curse in disguise as well, that today nowadays they have internet and they read a lot of about autism. So even if a child is not able to respond on the name, maybe the child is having some kind of hearing issue, the child is not listening to, maybe the child has some kind of, vision problem, or the child eyesight is weak, and parents say the child is not looking toward us. So these are two very maybe basic things early stage, because you also said that your child was not responding the name. So
Or the child,
just because
or
of
the child may
these
have a
things, maybe the child.
the child may have a sensitivity to things like light and
Yeah,
sound that's affecting the focus of eye contact and affecting
yeah,
the focus to listen. Because what I learned about Alexander is that all five of his senses were operating times 100 all at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
So his autism, he did not have the ability to filter out. His brain couldn't automatically filter what he didn't need so that he could focus on what he needed to focus on. See? So I had to learn how to do sensory integrative therapy to help his body, to
yeah.
manually help his brain and his body so he could filter neurologically what he didn't need so he could focus on what I was trying to teach.
So
So that's
basically
that.
this in our new terminology, sensory processing disorder. So the child could go maybe this problem as well. So you're putting the child is under the glasses of autism. The child have autism. The people don't understand that when you're diagnosing a child, you are the label will stand with that child for their whole life,
Mm-hmm.
and you are going to look at that child with their glasses of autism all the time. So okay,
Mm-hmm.
if the child have, but what have to do is you need to just say, for example, you talk about inclusion, how we are going to include our child in the normal society, how we are going to teach the child to do his stuff by himself, and how we are going to make a child independent. That is very important. Independent child is very important. Okay, the child is clingy over there, but you can teach the
It,
child independent as well.
yeah, yeah, it's independence is very important. However, like we talk about, um, how no two people are the same and the levels of their development. What we have to understand is that I know for me, for my situation, um, Alexander is codependent on someone taking care of him, right? He knows his mother is going to do everything she can to make sure that he's not institutionalized. As a result of that, I've already put together my will, my last will and testament of who and what is going to happen when I die, who's going to take care of my son, who's going to carry that torch um, for him to remain in his own home, in his community, within society as an inclusive citizen. So even if the person is not going to be completely independent, we still have to set the precedent of what's to happen if there's no longer their primary caregiver is no longer available to take care of them.
And
So
the
that's
point,
something we don't teach or we don't encourage, because we don't look at, people try not to look at death, but death, the shedding the physical body is a part of the journey of life. So
yeah,
you have to put things in place when you
yeah.
have a child with autism.
And you over here you give you point a very important aspect, because a lot of mothers are worrying and aspect that what will happen to our child when we go away. So they worry for this a lot of time, and they it's a constant worry for them. And maybe just because of that, they're in the trauma, their mental health is also challenging over here, that as well. So over here we need to go for inclusion as well, because what we could do, because these are some realities of life. So what we could do, we could go for inclusion that you were talking about again and again. That inclusion is very important. The more societies, aware of these things, the more they will help out the child. So let's talk about the challenging you are having over there, which are creating, what are the challenges you are facing over there in advocating autism, or the basic things, basic therapies a child is getting or not. What do you think you're facing over there?
Well, a lot of what we're facing over here is just the programmings that are in place for what I want to say, appropriate supports and services through what we call service providers.
Okay.
And these are programs that are local, state, and federally funded with taxpayers' dollars. And one of our problems here is truly individualizing a person-centered plan and complying, having the service providers comply to that plan as it's written to support my son with autism. Every year, I have to recertify my son for his lifelong disability and the supports and services that he needs. And we have to face obstacles every year because there's always someone within the agency or within the service provider that's trying to block what I'm trying to do for my son. And their profit margin and their bottom line, it's more important than serving the consumer of services. So they'd rather make a, 6 or 7 figure salary off the back of my son that's disabled, but my son can't have a piece of that pie. So every year, every day of every year, it's a constant thought of what my next rebuttal has to be when I'm fighting for my son's rights.
So it's basically it's a fight, and if it's diagnosed and people know that yes, the child is going to have this thing for their whole life, and even the child gets the services as well, but that is it's a kind of a painful thing that every year you have to make sure, or you have to tell other people that he's having that kind of disability. Even we are saying it, we are very educated people, we are living in 2022, and if you talk about Marcus Ward, he's maybe 40 years old now, and what problem he shared with me, that was painful as well. Even then he's advocating for them and talking about these people, and you're talking about them as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how many voices we need to tell other people that the child needs support, the child
Yes.
needs unconditional support. And for these children, we have to go beyond, these creating trouble for the parents, creating trouble for the child, because these are important part of society, and they will remain there. There's nothing we can prevent these things.
Me and Marcus have talked about working together, with him being a self-advocate and me being an advocate. And I'm looking forward to really sharing some of this journey between the two of us, and, him and Alexander moving forward together, and me in the background or what have you. But I do want to say too, there in a lot of cases, you have self-advocates that are selfish and they just go on their way. They don't share, information. And then you have advocates that are advocating for their child that they don't share. And one of the things that I do, and I'm so glad that Marcus actually reached out to me in Messenger, and I was like, sure, I work with you, but I was so impressed that a self-advocate reached out to me as an advocate and wants to work with me to not just draw attention to the lack of the inclusion, but to demand acceptance for those with autism. And here in Arkansas, adults with autism, there's really no services. You have to really bite the bullet to try and find services for the adults with autism. So one of the things I'm looking to do, I'm in the graduate program here at the university, UALR, and one of my goals, in addition to my nonprofit and doing autism strategy consulting, one of my goals, my major goals, is to I want to implement an adult housing project where adults can transition into their own home, or they can stay with us permanently and receive the resources that they need to be included in the community. by building on these relationships that I've already built with my son.
And let me tell you, because Mark is a name for us, and I just messaged him that I want to talk to you, and immediately he said, okay, yes. So it was not that I have to convince him, because I'm doing these, streaming with a lot of people, and maybe I message a lot of people, maybe 2 3 agree to come on this, talk to me, and this may be kind of a community service we both are doing. We're not getting out of anything from it, but what we just want to aware people, creating
So
awareness and
many
acceptance in the.
people, so
And
many
he
people
just said,
need the witness of this conversation, and so many people. But I think a lot of people get, especially when they're on the programs like my son is on. I think a lot of people get afraid to speak up and speak out because of
yeah,
retaliation that a
yeah.
lot of these programs will do against you if you speak out against it. I've been doing this for over 20 years. My son he'll be 29 in August, and he's been on this program for 25 years, 25, 26 years. So I don't care about the retaliation piece, because what I will do, I have no problem filing a grievance against the person that retaliates against me. And I will always have a rebuttal in place and ready to continue my fight for my son and anybody like him, to make sure that they get the supports and services that they're entitled to and that they're eligible for.
Okay, so let me share something else with you. I'm also having a center where we, like, maybe from my discussion, you already get that idea that I'm already having a place where we treat these children. Okay, so the thing is that now I'm getting a lot of calls from parents, and their children are 18 years old, and we don't have anything to do with them, because you know what people do? They will take your child, and the child will there maybe stay there for 3 to 4 years, and they don't know what is going inside that institution. They don't know that what is going, because they are not allowed to go inside. Okay, that is a separate thing. We are not challenging anyone over here, and I am not the kind of person that I start blaming other people for what they cannot do. It's their own deeds, and nobody's responsible for anyone. Okay, so
Right.
5 years the child is in one institution, 5 years the child is in another institution, and 6 years in another institution. Okay, now the child is 18 years old. What the child is going to do? It's not just about the boys; it's about the girl as well. What they are going to do. Okay. So when we were, I was working on that institution. Then we were also thinking on the aspect to make these people economical independent, not in the sense that they just go and have a shop. It's not just like that. Maybe you cannot, their children cannot do, but they can make something which can help these children to earn something. Maybe they make something, maybe they're good in the art, and you sell that painting, and that things go to the the account of that child, so that the child continue to take this service. A lot of project we are working on. We are brainstorming a lot of projects for children who are adult now, what they are going to do. So a lot of parents are worrying. It's not just about your state, that you have a lot of people, they are taking institution, and you can go to this institution and you have a lot of services. And what I said, when a child is adult, the autism does not go away. It stay there. Why all the time you're talking my child is having autism? Child. Why don't we talk about adult having autism? So in my vision, I'm also working on that, the aspect that how we can do, or how we can change the life of these individuals. I know it's a very challenging thing, because maybe it's a new talk, or what you are doing, it's difficult as well, but it doesn't mean that we cannot do that. If the child with autism is not giving up on us, why we are going to give up on these children? So
Exactly.
because they're not giving up. Sometimes we get let me share one very interesting experience with you. One day
Okay.
I was in training, and that is in my early, maybe early time when I was in training. So I did something, and I was angry on that thing, and my trainer he was angry on me, and I was upset on that thing. Why my trainer is angry on me? So I was sitting in a chair, and just sitting, and I was so upset. A child came to me, and the child wouldn't talk that much. The child came to me, teacher, what happened to you? Why you're sad? That child asked me, and that is
I-
so beautiful. So
Yes.
beautiful. And these children are so lovely. They're this,
Yes.
and that is genuine. The respect you can get from these people are genuine. And let me give you another other experience. That is very beautiful experience as well, because and whenever you work with these children, it gives you some other form of energy. So you're filled
Yes.
with so much positivity from these children.
Yes.
The child was 8 years old, and the child is having he's non-verbal, still non-verbal. So whenever you ask that child, the child will comply to your command. So I was working with something, and I asked the child to stay over there, and I said that just stay over there, I'm coming back. The child was not sitting on the chair. The child was looking toward me. The moment I will go, then the child will sit on that chair. Okay. So same thing, something else happened, and in that institution we have other children as well. So the caretaker was complaining that these children are not going to understand, that they're not listening, and those children, sorry to say the word, they're normal people. I mean, so-called normal people. So they can do anything, they can go anywhere, they have independent life, and they are not listening to the other people, and they're not giving respect to the elder people. I just give her example, and she was working with that child as well. I just give her example of the morning. That did you remember what happened in the morning? When I asked that child to get stopped, he stopped immediately, like just like a button. I did not did anything. I did not press a button, but he was stopped and he was listening to me and he gave me respect. But and you are saying that this child is having autism. He's not normal and he have this trouble and he's so dependent on us. But look at the way he is giving us respect. The genuine love we are getting from that child. That child is so lovely. And when why I work with these children, they're so lovely. They're so full of compassion. And the moment you see these children smile, and whenever I am getting a little bit improvement in these, that make my day. It's not just about getting stuff like that. It makes you it makes you so happy. So journey is so beautiful, and not just about working with these children. You need a lot of tolerance to work
and
with these
people with autism, kids and the adults. They want to make you proud, right?
Yeah,
They want to do good. They want to get thumbs up. They want to, they want to feel. They don't want to feel like they're an outcast. They want to feel embraced, and they want to love, and they want to be a part.
Yeah, and they're also giving you love as well. It's not just about them. They're not. People say that they're self-focused. They're not self-focused. Don't call them that they're self-focused. They help every other person. I used to wear a lot of rings. I used to wear a lot because I love jewelry. And children will come and give me my jewelry. They will not allow anyone to touch my stuff. They will come and they will give me my stuff. So how beautiful their love is, how genuine their love is, and and they're not demanding anything from us. They're just demanding acceptance. They're just demanding acceptance from, they're just demanding acceptance from nothing else from us. So the journey is so beautiful, and
they want to be accepted for exactly who they are, and what they represent for themselves. Accept me for who I am, and that's what we all want, right? Accept me. Don't try to change me. Accept me for who I am. If not, then just leave me be.
Yeah. So whenever and over here, I think that it's not just about awareness all the time. Maybe we talk about autism awareness, it's not just awareness anymore. It's about accepting. It's about appreciation, and it's about inclusion as well. So whenever we talk about these things, we need to add these things because it's an important part of society. They are there, and there will be more children with that people. And it's not just about autism; it's about other disabilities as well. We need to.
I don't even use the word awareness anymore. I only use acceptance, inclusion, empowerment. We've been doing this for years. Everybody is aware about autism.
Yeah.
Now it's time to really push the door of inclusion and acceptance.
Yeah, and I think they're more aware now. Just because of this awareness thing, they put everything in order.
They're aware. That is, what they can do about it.
Extra aware. So the thing is about that we need to, as a person, I would say that we need to push and we need to look into society how they change their ways now, because these children are doing too much efforts on themselves. They're putting a lot of efforts. Therapists are putting a lot of effort, but where are the effort of society? Society is putting no effort. These children are coming to society, and earlier we were talking about the thing that the person is a curse. Maybe the person is doing something bad, and that is happening to them. It's not just about that. It's not like that. Any person could have any kind of physical ailment as well at any time of their life. And when you have some kind of physical ailment, you got a lot of calls. You got a lot of visits in the hospital as well. But when you came to know that somebody has some kind of problem, then a mother is not getting any call from these people, and that is ironic. That is painful as well. So it is painful. So why we are isolating? We are isolating the whole family. It's not just about the child. We are isolating the whole family just because of a thing which is not in the control of the child. And and the child feeling these things as well, that just because of me my parents are not going to not able to go to some other place, just because of me my parents are not going to have some dinner party. So and over here whenever we talk about society is more about accepting each other, having tolerance for each other, and you know we need to take these children to parks and stuff like that. When we talk about socialization, we have to give them a space to socialize. Why we talk about yeah, parents are getting judgmental looks that this parent don't know how to parent that child. Why don't you go and give some suggestion to that child, or why don't you go and feed in her shoes?
Encourage them, teach them how to introduce themselves, how to do a handshake or a fist bump. There's a lot of ways to encourage social interaction, but it has to be, you have to create that opportunity no matter where you are, right? If you're standing in line at the grocery store, or you're placing an order at McDonald's, that's encourage that interaction, and then let that carry over into other, components of their life.
Yeah. So thank you so much for lovely talking, and I learned so much from your discussion today.
I'm gonna bring him in one more time, Alexander.
Okay, again. Alexander, yes. Where are you, Alexander?
Come here.
Come here, yes. Alexander. Talking about you.
Come here. I'm gonna take a
Hello, Alexander. How are you? What you are watching? You are watching some movie?
Are you watching a movie?
Yes.
Which movie you are watching? Wait, Alexander, which movie?
Wait. Come here. Come right there.
Good.
Hey. We're trying to get you on a screenshot of you. Put it on TV.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at the camera.
Okay,
oh.
Alexander,
big smile.
Cheese.
Okay, Alexander, tell me, do you like superhero movies?
Hey, what kind of movies do you like? What kind of movie? What movie are you watching in there?
Next Friday.
Next Friday. That's with Ice Cube.
Okay, can you tell me the name? I would also like to watch that movie with you, Alexander. I also like to watch movies.
I do. Look, with him, he's got movies going on 2 or 3 TVs at the same time.
Okay.
This has been great.
He wanted to communicate actually, let me share you one experience, and that experience is so beautiful. That was first session of the mother, because I'm giving online services as well, and it was before COVID. So mother said, I don't understand how my child is going to talk to you. Okay, so what happened? I just talked to that child. We just greet each other, and the child went away. Okay, what happened? The child was constantly coming, and he was just doing like that in camera, just like that,
Uh-huh.
So he was in the background. The child was in the background, and I told her, mother, see, he want to communicate. He just don't know how to communicate. So it's about these children that they always want to communicate. So the mother was so astonished. She was astonished that what is going on. I told that that's how we need to see these things from different perspective now. Communication just not just about talking all the time and exchanging of the word and greeting all the time. If a person is in the camera, is over there, he's standing beside you, means that he want to communicate and he's there for you. So thank you so much, Veronica, for coming to my live stream. It was lovely talking to you, and it was inspirational. And I learned a lot of things from you. You also gave me a lot of inspiration, and that is my little, you could say, effort to. It's not just about awareness now. It's about acceptance. It's about inclusion. And I do agree with whatever you said in our discussion. And I would like to have more discussion like that. And let me end this broadcast. And I would like to talk to you after that broadcast as well. So don't go anywhere.
Okay.
You just stay. I just need to end this. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody watching. See you in the next broadcast.